What's up, MetaNerdz? This video will break down two of the Dwarf Spider descendants, the ADSD and HDSD. Check out the whole video on DSD1, but to sum up its history, it was made by Baktoid Armor Workshop, stood 2 meters tall, just a bit taller than your average humanoid, and focused all of its power into moving these 4 legs that could scurry over any terrain or walk straight up walls. Pick up on any target with its infrared photoreceptors and scanners that could see through solid stone and pierce through the darkest caverns. Which came in handy since it was commissioned to hunt down striking worker groups that held up in narrow mine shafts. Like most of the vehicles that would end up being used in warfare on the side of the CIS, they were originally used as lone collection and union breaking droids, which is true of everything from the Hailfire to the Spider Droid family. The DSD1 could self-destruct if it was being overwhelmed, and simply close off the mineshaft to let the revolutionaries die, just from running out of air or other resources, while sending everything it did and saw back to a sort of squad commander that was the OG-9. To fill in the gap between these two creepy crawlies, Baktoid Armor Workshop produced the Heavy as a direct successor to the DSD1. And through the complicated web of ownership by these companies that were large militaries, the Commerce Guild would buy up most of these heavy units, and then later donate their use to the joint CIS effort right before the Battle of Geonosis. If you like this kind of detail in ships and vehicles, you'll love today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is available now for free on PC and consoles. I'm sure if you're into our ship and vehicle breakdowns and real-world comparisons, you've heard of War Thunder. With 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s to fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. And all with incredible detail and sound design that brings you into the battle unlike anything else out there. Every vehicle is intricately modeled down to the individual components, like engines, fuel tanks, weapons, and crew, that can all be targeted and destroyed for specific and realistic effects, along with different types of armor, shells, and missiles that behave like their real-world counterparts, which is all really shown off in the X-ray mode. And that's why there's a worldwide community of over 70 million players in PvP battles today. It is simply the best game out there for anybody interested in vehicle combat and military history, with something for the most casual to true historians. So start playing War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox now by using my link in the pinned comment or video description. New and returning players that haven't played in 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack across all platforms. It includes multiple premium vehicles, a 50% experience and income booster, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. It's available for a limited time only, so be quick and use my link. They would see combat during the opening battle of the Clone Wars, and the thicker metal composite used in their body would make it harder to destroy, while it upped the main cannon from the single weapon to now 3 heavy blaster cannons, each much stronger than the cannons that would end up on the AT-ST, but still less than the chin-mounted heavy laser cannons of the AT-AT. They would most often be deployed in squads of 4, but could be sent out in pairs or up to 5 spider comrades under a OG-9. And together they could concentrate their fire and easily take out row after row of charging clone troopers, and even melt their way through the thick armor plating of ATTEs, and were accurate enough to simply target weaker systems like the cockpit or accordion section to leave it dead in the water, and clean up the crew that was desperately trying to escape. We don't know the cost of the DSD1 or the Heavy variant, but since the ADSD successor that would become the ultimate unit in the line was only $25K, I can't see how it would cost more than that. I wouldn't be surprised if it was as little as half that. So you can see another example of just how much more cost-effective the CIS military was. If we say $15K for the Heavy, for the cost of a single ATTE, you can pump out 20 Heavies or 12 of the Advanced. And that doesn't even account for the cost of creating the clones to operate the clone tank walker, nor the overall greater cost to maintain organics. None of the parts used to create these droid spiders were specialized, and their main weapon relied on blaster tech, using the ubiquitous Tabana gas to power it, not any specialized projectiles or explosive warheads. Though of course, to be fair, these tanks do play a different role in the battlefield. The main show on the ATTE is the mass projectile launcher, and putting these weapons on LAATs as well showed a different theory in warfare on the Republic side, with each unit from the clones themselves to their vehicles being far more expensive, but qualitatively more powerful. There are certain things these spiders simply cannot destroy no matter how concentrated their fire was. Before we turn to the Advanced Dwarf Spider Droid, now we get to the Advanced variant, the most like a proper tank in this line, though you'll see why it does fall short of what you might expect from Republic tank standards or even the AAT. It too was spread all throughout the galaxy before the outbreak of the Clone Wars, though it was not said to be produced by Factoid, but rather the Commerce Guild manufacturers. Like the others, it was designed to root out miners who refused to pay the trade conglomerate's tariffs. It was available commercially for many years before the Battle of Geonosis, and so was used in holographic training simulators for clone troopers on Kamino. However, it was not produced in large numbers until after the mobilization of the droid armies due to cost overruns, which is hilarious and shows that even with its low cost, the shrewd businessmen turned secessionist war strategists saw a $25K price tag as too high, pointing to how much cheaper the other spiders must be, and just how many units were produced in a run that when multiplied by the thousands or millions, each unit being 10K more really did start to add up. Designed for fierce combat on rugged terrain, the ADSD was equipped with a variety of advanced weapon systems. Among its arsenal were dual target-seeking missiles that could launch as soon as the targeting system locked on. Its front legs were armored with large plates, offering substantial protection against frontal attacks.
Its durasteel plating is rated for starship hulls and is nearly invulnerable to small arms fire.
But with some accurate small arms fire, these could be easily blown off. Atop the droid's frame was a powerful cannon that fired high-energy bolts, capable of explosive impact and extensive destruction. And like the others, it is officially rated as a heavy blaster cannon. But the biggest divergence is the fire-linked missile launchers, having a pair of launchers with 36 missiles on board, though these were nowhere near as powerful as the ATTE or even the AAT, which did have proper anti-armor warheads, much more like an actual tank, whereas these 36 missiles on board were described as frag missiles, meant for taking out infantry. And even if swapped out, this weapon system was more like a shoulder-fired rocket, meant for taking out lighter armor and maybe disabling a tank, but never enough to punch straight through it. However, the unit had a notable vulnerability: its singular red optical cluster. Although it could scan its surroundings for enemies, this cluster remained a weak point, retaining the biggest weakness in the original Dwarf Spider Droid.
Only its optical cluster, the red orb on its abdomen, is unshielded and vulnerable. In other words, shoot the big red spot.
Republic forces knew that anti-armor weaponry was particularly effective against these units, and Sev compared the ADSD to being as slow as a Gungan tree sloth.
Slower than a Gungan tree sloth.
Delta Squad encountered numerous war droids during their covert missions throughout the Clone Wars, most notably on Geonosis and Kashyyyk. After Darth Sidious's new apprentice, Darth Vader, executed the Separatist Council, these units, like all the other droids, were deactivated. But sadly, unlike many of the other droid units, from B1s to Vultures, we have no recorded use of the old spiders by rebels or other forces in the following decades. But they would not be forgotten. Being dreamt up in the minds of massive corporate conglomerates trying to silence worker movements and seize assets, brought to life by the bug brains on Geonosis, they would strike terror into clone and civilians alike, as all these variants swarmed their opponents across countless worlds, reporting everything back to their big brother the OG-9 that could blow open areas to let the spiders rush in, or take out larger armor that their heavy blaster cannons couldn't handle. But together, from the single cannon with variable power, to the triple, and then the cannon missile combo, they left their legacy in the chronicles of military history in the galaxy far, far away. That's it for the breakdown. As for behind the scenes facts, the Heavy comes from Star Wars Galactic Battlegrounds clone campaigns. And although this is only shown in the Clone Wars campaign guide, this is Rex fighting in Advanced, but we don't get any details on when or where this was. Well, of course it comes from the Republic Commando game, and more details come from the Hard Contact novel, as well as the Prima guide. And thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Be sure to download today via the link down below, available on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox, with new and returning players who haven't played for at least 6 months getting a huge bonus pack. Hit the like button, it's the best way to help me out. Subscribe to see more, and check out these videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, if you sign on the dotted line, the spiders will hunt you down in the mines, and the Force will be with you. Always.